Hey everyone, Ulria here, and today we'll be looking at Ovi'nax on the Mythic difficulty. Now there's a lot to unpack on this boss, so this video might be a bit longer, which I'm sorry about, but I'm gonna segment the video in different categories so you can skip ahead to whatever you want to watch. I'm gonna go through the main boss abilities, how to deal with the X, raid composition, and at the end I want to include a bit of troubleshooting about weak auras. I've seen a lot of people ask questions such as why are we getting triple assignments? Why are we getting a color that's not even part of the weak aura? And those can really hinder your progress if you don't know how to deal with them. So I'm gonna include some frequently asked questions and how to troubleshoot your weak auras. Bit of a hint, the issues are almost always user issues. Alright, starting off with the egg breaks. This is kind of your core main mechanic of this boss. Now on Mythic there's going to be a lot more double cluster of eggs. So the people breaking the eggs, first of all, on Mythic you need 2 of the dark purple circles to cover the eggs in order to break them, different from Heroic or Normal where you only need 1. The weak aura is going to assign a word marker to where you need to go and which eggs you need to break. However, very important for that is, you see those double cluster eggs, right? Their hitbox is very small. So whenever you're breaking a double one, you need to ensure that the 2 people are hugging the middle of the eggs, right? Otherwise, if you're a bit far off, you're just not going to break the eggs, and that is just an instant wipe. Now, throughout the whole fight, Ovi'nax is going to spawn those swirlies on the ground that you see. Those you definitely want to dodge, they deal quite a bit of damage. However, a bit of an asterisk to this is those are going to sometimes line up with the egg breaks. So there's going to be a swirly falling onto you whenever you're about to hit an egg. Now you don't want to move away from the egg because that's just not going to break it. So you can face tank a swirly if you need to, just pop a personal before that. You could also kind of bait the swirlies. They spawn around players or just randomly around the room. So you could also just bait them out and kind of at the end of your cast just move in towards the eggs. The sticky web mechanic works the same as Heroic. You basically just want to get out of the raid, get the spells or break it on your own. And that's about it. It's just going to slow you, tick on you for some damage. Now, though, it is very important that the range kind of pre-spreads. You're going to get a warning from your weak aura pack to pre-spread in 5 seconds. You're going to get the webs. So range can already be pre-spread on the boss. A lot of the classes can break their own web, such as like druids can shapeshift, hunters can disengage, mages can blink, and so on. So you just want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So that's why just spread around the boss. Easy, nice and simple. Now melees have to be ready to kind of run out, leap out or whatever and get dispelled. There is a very neat macro that you can use, and whenever you press it, healers are going to get a glow on their frame so they can just kind of instantly dispel you. If you have a red paladin, definitely have them run double freedom. This is going to eliminate 2 people from the whole equation because they can just pre-immune the webs. And what I suggest using those on is usually going to be someone you're going to assign to knock adds, which I'm going to talk about a bit later, or you're going to give it to a melee such as a rogue who just cannot break their own web and they need some help with it. You definitely want to keep your melees on the boss just for uptime, right? Now let's talk a bit about the raid composition. It is pretty fluid on this boss. You're going to see a lot of guilds 2 tank, 3 tank. You're going to see 3 healers, 4 healers, or you're going to see just straight up 3 tanks and 4 healers in some kills. Now, what actually dictates what you want to bring? I'm going to talk about the X a bit later, however, you're going to see the small parasites, right? You want to grip those. It makes the fight a lot more neater, a lot more smoother, and it makes the parasites a lot more controllable, right? So you definitely want mass grip for every set. How you do this is by having a double blood decay or a vengeance demon hunter. Now, if your 2 tanks are just main blood decays, that's nice and simple. You can just run 2 tanks and they can just alternate grips. However, if you don't have a blood decay and your other tank does not have like a node blood decay, you're gonna sit your DPS DK, you're gonna tell them, hey, we need you to be just a grip bot for this boss, so please spec blood. Or if you have a Havoc Demon Hunter, you're gonna do the same just for Vengeance. Now Havoc or Vengeance rather, can deal with every set alone. They can reduce their grip sigil CD enough so it is up for every Gahuni set, but as far as I know, this kind of reduce their tankiness because they have to constantly rotate the sigil so in order to reduce their grip one. So if you have Vengeance doing that, you definitely want them as the third tank so they don't actually tank the boss. If you also have an old blood decay or someone off-specking, they might not be comfortable with tanking. So in that case, I also suggest having them being the third tank. As far as the healers go, there isn't really a meta anymore after the Preservation Evoker nerfs. Any healer works. You want to reduce the healers to an amount that you're comfortable with because there isn't really a lot of damage going on this boss. It is a lot more focused on actually healing absorbs, and anything that's going to kill you is just going to be avoidable. However, if you're still kind of struggling with the healing absorb, I definitely suggest just going 4 healers, that's fine. We also have a lot of the raid buff that keeps on stacking up, so you're gonna have plenty of damage anyways. The more DPS you have, of course, the better, because your aim is to, as you can see on the video, this is the third section, your aim is going to be to skip as much as you can of this section, and more DPS just helps you out. Now, a very important thing I do want to mention is the lust timing. I'm seeing a decent chunk of guilds lust pool. This is wrong. This does not give you more damage. This does not give you more boss damage, and I definitely suggest just lusting in the third section as soon as you do the first egg breaks. Now, as I said, this is also the hardest section to deal with, and having lust helps you deal with the worms specifically. However, this also lines up with cities, this lines up with spy masters, pots, and everything. You just clean up the ads and then you just blast the boss, and your aim is to skip as much as you can in this section. So this is why you see us clear up only the kind of the first roll of X here, and we just never break the back ones, because the blood is just not going to reach them until the boss dies. How you know if you're actually on time is I basically look at as the boss is transitioning from the second to the third platform. I'm looking for around 30% HP. If you're hitting that, then you definitely know you're on track to skip X. If you're not, you're sadly gonna have to kind of play maybe the whole fight, or at least a bit more of it. Alright, let's talk about how to deal with the X now. So on this picture, as you see, the bottom right is the entrance, and there's going to be 3 sections overall. The boss is going to drain the canisters. There's going to be a canister in each section, and whatever canister the boss drains first is going to empower the ads from that section throughout the whole fight. So the one you enter is going to be the worm one. The one on the left, this is going to be the parasite one, and the one at the top is going to be the spider one. Now, what happens when an ad gets empowered? All of them are gonna get, I believe, 50% extra HP, so it is gonna be harder to kill them, but they also are gonna get a special effect. Now, the worms are gonna start casting 100% faster. Missing a kick could very well just wipe you. Now, imagine that cast just being 100% faster. If you miss a kick, you're just done. That is why the worms is generally the harder section, and that is why also you want to skip the most out of it. Now, the parasites are going to get a stacking buff that's going to increase their movement speed, and at X amount of stacks they're going to become CC immune. And the spiders are just on every melee attack, they're going to apply a debuff that is going to reduce your healing taken. So that is basically the necrotic affix that we had a while back. The section you're going to start with is going to be the parasite one. You're going to move into the spider one second, and you're going to leave the worm for last. Now here on this picture, and by the way, any resource that I use, I'm going to put in the description below. So anything you see here is you can grab from the description. So this is how, based on the NS weak aura, this is how you're gonna do that. So you see this is 1, 2, 3, the numbers I believe are a bit hard to see, but they are behind the boss, and this is the cluster of X that you're gonna break first. So let's talk about the parasites. I did mention Nox. I didn't really talk about it in the composition part of the video. However, besides the tanks, you're gonna need at least 2 Nox. This is generally very easily achievable because every guild is going to run at least like a druid and a mage, or a druid and a Drakthir. Kind of almost anything works. Shaman knocks work as well. However, I definitely suggest if you have Draktis and Druids, use those knocks because they are more of like a cone in front of you, whereas the others are more volatile, like Mage and Shaman, they're around the person. And sometimes it could be kind of hard to aim those, so the parasites could fly in wild directions. But if you use a Druid and a Drakti, that is very easy. Now, this picture is before the nerfs. Well, I guess it's not really nerfs, but it's kind of the rework of Draktis, whereas now Evokers cannot deal with every set. So before that, oh, actually, no, I can see a Drakti here, so this is actually post nerfs. But anyways, what happens is if you have two druids, every druid can just knock every set, right? But if you don't have two druids, you're gonna use a druid and you're gonna rotate something like an evoker on 1, 3, and 5, and a Jokti on 2, 4, and 6. Some of those don't even have knocks, so that is not really gonna matter. However, what is gonna happen? The first section obviously is the parasite ones, and each section that gets empowered has more of those type of eggs. So the first one is going to have a lot of like triple parasites or double parasite sets. The tank is generally going to position themselves on star. So star is going to be your third parasite cluster, I guess, which is not going to have a knock. You can see one here, you can also see one here. What is going to happen is the green one and the purple one are going to get knocked towards the star. And the tank so if you're a Blood DK, I definitely suggest mass gripping on yourself and not the boss, right? You can position yourself a lot better. You can stand kind of closer to star, so you don't miss any of those because they're not going to get knocked. So just mass grip on you. After you mass grip all of them, you're going to go into a CC rotation, which is usually a leg sweep into a Chaos Nova. You can use aggressive roar, whatever it's called from Evokers. That is going to extend the CC, so your leg sweep kind of goes up to about 6 seconds, I believe. But in that CC rotation, you're going to just kind of burst down the parasites. Here I have a very good POV of what's happening. So one more thing about the Recors is they're going to let you hard assign people to markers. So you can hard assign your knockers to be on green and purple. They don't necessarily have to get an egg break, so if they don't, they're going to pre-position there anyways. But if they do, they always know, hey, I'm knocking green on every set, so I'm always going to get the green egg break. So you hard assign those through the ERT nodes. And you can see here, we're breaking the parasites. The two sides are getting knocked towards the star, and then the mass grip comes, the CCs, everyone kind of burns them. I believe warriors are going to have Blade Storm or whatever for a lot of those sets. So warriors are going to be your top damage on the parasites by a mile. Then you just have the worms and the spiders to deal with. A little bit of a thing about the spiders is you're going to get on the second section, you're going to get a lot of triple spiders, right? The spiders, if they don't melee a tank, if they melee a healer or whatever, they're just going to one-shot them. So the tanks need to position in a way that they are actually going to grip, or not grip, but pick up the aggro of every spider. Now, whenever there is a triple set, the tanks need to position in a way that, for example, tank X is going to be close to this spider, tank Y is going to be close to this spider, and there is going to be no tank next to the third spider. So what the tanks are going to do, and this I suggest having your tanks go over a POV and decide their positioning or what they're going to do, is they're going to AoE around them, something like Keg Smash, Blood Boil, whatever, ensure that they pick up the spider that they're standing on, and one of them is just going to kind of natty taunt the third spider. Definitely tell your melees to hold their horses, or anyone for that matter, hold their horses a bit. Don't instantly nuke the spiders to hell because they are going to get aggro. Give the tanks a second or two to pick that up, and then you can start your big AoE burn. Alright, so when we're talking about the worms is you want to set up a kick rotation for the worms, right? You want at least 5 people on the kick for every one of those. And most of the sections you're going to have only 2 worms. So you're going to rotate 10 people's kicks, you're going to have spare ones. If someone dies, make sure they call a backup on whatever marker. However, for the section that you're going to have triple worms, you're going to need 15 kicks, kind of. Of course, the worms are sometimes gonna die before all of the kicks go through, But still, I suggest assigning 5 just to be safe. What happens with the worms though? You need a kick Wikora, which I'm going to talk about later, and you need to assign the people, and if you're using the NS Wikora, you're going to need to manually mark the worms. Now, I definitely do not suggest using the Bigwigs marking, because the Bigwigs is going to mark differently every single pool. Because it doesn't really have prio, they are the same NPCs, so it's just gonna pick on random, and that's just bad for consistency, right? So if you need to manually mark the worms, I'm gonna put up a macro in the description that is very neat, and it's gonna allow the first person who's kicking to mark the spider. Or the worm, rather. So what I say is put your 3 reliable people on first kicks, because when the worms spawn, we need to mark that. And they're also going to take the first kick. And that sets up the kicks for the rest of the people. If you're, however, using liquids, that has a function of auto-marking the worms, so you don't really have to bother with any macros. So as you can see here, what I'm talking about is we have this worm here being marked blue. This worm over here is being marked cross. So people know your marker people are gonna have to decide right which worm they're marking, which worm they're taking, and this is gonna be the same for every pool. If you're using bigwigs, sometimes this could be blue, sometimes it could be red, and vice versa for the other worm. Alright, now comes the time where we're talking about weak auras. So your interrupt anchor weak aura is the standard one, the one that most people use. I am going to put it in the description below. There's not much to it. Use Viserious spreadsheet to also assign. It's going to format everything for you. Now let's dig a bit into the assignment weak aura. I call it assignment weak aura, and why you might be getting something like triple assignments. First and foremost, it is very important that obviously everyone has the weak aura, and everyone also has the database and functions weak aura. That is absolutely crucial. However, on top of that, you want to ensure that everyone is on the same version of the assignment weak aura. If you have people on conflicting versions, it might cause triple assignments. Now, Relo, the maker of the weak aura, also shout out to RLE, posted these kind of things that you can check out and see what could be going wrong. Now, if you have triple assignments, it could be caused by Bigwigs, DBM, or IRT. All of those 3 add-ons have an option to mark for X, and they use different marks, and sometimes they're gonna take prior over the NS weak aura. So you want to go into Bigwigs, DBM, or IRT, whatever you're using, and disable the assignments for experimental dosage, and disable the /say as well. Now, different versions across your raids. I already did mention that. You could use the Octopulse weak aura that checks for what everyone's version is. Different MRT notes across your raids. Ensure that you don't send the note too early. Don't send it before everyone joins. But when you summon everyone is, all 20 people are with you, then send the notes. If someone DCs as well, that could reset their notes. So whenever they log back in, just make sure you push the notes again. Someone has someone else on ignore. Now, this is a very funny thing. I've seen it from other assignment weak auras. I'm not going to pretend I know exactly how the weak auras work, but there is some sort of like internal messaging going on. And if someone has another person on ignore, they cannot receive their info, so that could break it as well. Now, a couple of things I also want to mention about the marking on this boss and this map that you see on my screen. Some guilds decide to have 4 people marking. Person A always marks star, person B always marks green, so on and so forth. I don't like this because it requires 4 people. Now, yes, everyone remembers only 1 egg and 1 marker that they put down, but I honestly genuinely prefer 1 person doing all the marks. Now, me as a raid leader, I had the privilege of just having to mark, and marking being a caster is really annoying because you cannot place down markers while casting. You can do that while channeling though, which is kind of weird. You just designate 1 person in your raid that is just always going to mark the X. There is a weak aura that's the cycle world marker weak aura that works. Could also, what I did personally is I key bound the markers that I wanted to use through MRT, and then I know I bound them on F1 through F4, so then I know F1 is always this marker, F2 is always that marker, and I just kind of slap them quickly. Now, this map that you see here, this requires an additional add-on, and that would be the Northern Sky Media add-on. If you want to see the map, you need this add-on, and this is great for raid leaders who are marking. It is also pretty helpful for other people to kind of see the eggs prior to you having to break them. And then you see, this egg is purple, so I'm putting purple there. This egg is going to be the star one, so I'm going to place a star one there, so forth and so on. And that was everything for Ovi'nax, I believe. I hope I haven't left anything out. Sorry I might sound a bit all over the place in this video. I'm trying real hard not to miss anything and include as much details as I can, as condensed as I can as well. But if you still have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Feel free to join my Discord, I can help you there as well. Any resources, as I mentioned like 5 times by now, are going to be in the description. They're also going to be in my Discord. I'll be happy to help. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Silken Call, which I believe is also going to be a pretty long one. Take care.